Hello and welcome back. In our last video, we looked at using live templates set up within the IntelliJ IDE. These live templates are a great way to learn the Cypress commands. You'll be creating shortcuts and easily refer to these shortcuts when creating new tests, and the idea behind that is you can easily reference these commands without having to rely on the Cypress documentation, and hopefully you'll pick up where you use these commands more often. We'll be using some of those commands in this new video. We have my OWASP Juice Shop application. This is an application that I downloaded from the Docker. It's run in a Docker container and it's run locally. The idea behind this is to have an application that's easily accessible and won't change over time. For this video, we're going to go over to the search icon. We'll be looking at implementing clicks as well as type commands. We'll be looking at how to pass in special keys within the Cypress commands, such as pressing return on the keyboard, which in this implementation causes these search results to be returned. We'll be looking at how we can implement assertions to validate that this text is exactly as we typed in this input field here. And we'll also be looking at how we can do validations. So we'll look at validations on this text, validations to make sure that this ribbon is appearing or not appearing, and also look at how we can implement something to validate that the right number of elements or products are being returned. We're using IntelliJ. I've set up a Cypress spec file. So this one is called Cypress locators. Inside here we've got our describe block, which contains all of the other elements needed to be able to write a test. We've got our before each block, and inside here we set a number of cookies. Some of these cookies are added in order to prevent pop-ups from appearing while we're doing the testing. And we've also got a visit command, which tells the application where we need to go for performing our tests. And we also have an it block, and it's this block that we'll be adding test steps to. We installed Cypress locally, and because of this, we'll be using the npx cypress open command. We use npx because it's installed locally and not a global installation. We'll continue with end-to-end testing, and we'll continue with Chrome. So you can see we've got the Cypress test runner. I'm going to select our spec file, and you can see this begins to run the test. We've got our before each block, where we set the number of cookies, and then we visit the webpage URL. The test body captures some of these requests that are implemented when the page is loaded, but there's nothing within our tests at the minute. Throughout the video, you might see me right-clicking and inspecting. I do this to look at the DOM and obtain the element attributes that we need for testing, but occasionally I'll switch from the Cypress test runner and go back to my main Chrome application. And that's just because the test runner, I feel, is sometimes a little bit crowded when you're going in inspecting and you want to be able to pick on elements and view all that information. So with that, we'll go to our application and we'll just go through what we want to do. So I want to be able to click on this element. I know I need to be able to type into this input field. So I'll search for bike, and as we looked or noticed, there's no button to be able to perform the search, so we have to press return on the keyboard. And now you can see we have one result, and if I do a search for something that returns multiple, you can see the search term is still displayed, and we have two elements here. We can also see that this paginator updates, and if we search for something that doesn't exist, you can see the paginator still updates 0 of 0, and we still have something here to implement or to indicate, that nothing has been found. So first off, what I'll do is right click on the element and select inspect. This takes us to this matte icon element, and you can see on the left hand side the icon has a blue square highlighting this element within the DOM. So what I'll do is I'll go up and I'm looking for anything with an ID that surrounds this search icon. So there's nothing available on this matte icon. I'll go up. It's another matte icon element, but again there's nothing there in terms of IDs. So I'll go up to see what the next element is, and we've got a matte form field, but again there's no ID. So I'll go up until we find something that is either as close to this icon as possible that has an ID, or if not, we'll look at using a different element or selector. So I can see we've got a matte search bar, and this does have an ID. And looking on the left hand side where the application is in view, you can still see the blue highlighted area is over the search icon. So I'm confident that is what we need. If we go up to this span element, you can see the focus has gone to the far left near the OWASP juice shop icon. So we know that we're too far in the DOM. So I'll go back to this search query. What I do is just double click, and then you can do command and copy, or you can right click and copy. I'll go back to our application and I'll paste that into our test. I'll double click and then do command option J, and you can see here these are just a few of our live templates, and we have one for a get. So I'll select that and then press save. So you can see the test has started to run already. We've got our before each block, which has passed, and then we get to our test body and we get this get command, which is failing. The reason it's failing is because at the minute Cypress doesn't know what we're actually looking for. As it is currently, it's searching for something which has a value of search query. But this search query has to be an element type. So it's looking for something that is a search query type, where this is a matte search bar type or a tag, depending on how you reference these. So this is a matte form field or a type of matte form field or an element, and this is a span element. So that doesn't exist. Because we're looking for an ID, we need to tell Cypress that it's an ID. So to do that, we put in a hashtag at the start of the value of the ID. I've saved that, and now we go back to our test. You can see now we've got the get request, and it's looking for hash search query. There's something about Cypress where its rendering can be off, and in this example you can see it's highlighting an element but it doesn't line up. That's not a big issue. The fact that we're still being able to find that element is okay. So once we've done that, we know we needed to do the type. So I'm just going to duplicate this, and then we're going to do dot type, and then inside of the type we just pass in the value that we want Cypress to type. So you can see now We've done the before each. We've got the element and we've typed in bike. What we could do, because if we look at this element, we've actually typed into a mat search bar, which is an input field, but it might make more sense to click onto this element and then type into here. So we'll change this test a little bit. So we'll do dot click. Get rid of this. So you can see now we have that input field being displayed. And if we do that manually, I'll inspect. And you can see we have this input field, which also has an ID. The ID has a 0, which to me indicates that it might increase each time you use this field. So what I like to do is just go into the field and just see if we can get this field to increment. And all I'm doing is just giving it the focus and then removing the focus. I'll do a number of searches just to make sure that when we re-inspect this element, it doesn't change. So I'll inspect that, and you can see it's still mat input 0. So I'm confident we can reuse this ID. If your ID does change, it might be worthwhile speaking to a developer, if you can, just to see if they can get this to be a static ID. With that copied, I'll paste it into IntelliJ and we'll do our get command. I'll save that. So you can see it's running the test. And again, it's failed. And that's failed because we didn't tell Cypress what we're looking for. So if we go back, put in the hash and then save, and you can see now the test has passed. So what we'll do here is we'll actually do the type on this input field. So we'll say dot type, we'll look for bike. I'll save that. You see the screenshot has now displayed the bike as we've typed it. There's no button to perform the search. So what we can do is tell Cypress that once we've typed in the word that we're interested in, we want it to press return. And we do that with a open curly brace, type in the word enter, and then close the curly brace. I'll save that. And you can see now we have the word bike in the input field, and we've performed the bike search, and we've got one returned result. What I might want to do then is make sure that what we type here is displayed here. So I'll go back to the main the main Chrome window, search for bike, and then I'll inspect this element. And you can see here we have an ID. So I'll copy that value. Again, we'll go to IntelliJ, paste the value in, and then we'll use our shortcuts to do a get request, a get command. And you can see it's failed, and that's because I forgot the hashtag to make Cypress aware that we're looking for an ID value. And now you see that's passed. So we'll do an assertion, and I'll create a separate video for assertions, but just to make this video have a little bit more context, we've got the element from this get command, and now we're just going to make sure the text is what we would expect. So I'm just going to type in bike. That's wrong. So should have dot text. That's the assertion that it should have the text, and this is the value that we're expecting. So I'll save that and go back to our test, and you can see we've taken the element ID and we've asserted that on that element it's got the word bike. So these examples are all using IDs. When we got onto this element, we need to see if there are any IDs available, or if not, look for something that's more appropriate. So I've selected this first icon, which allows you to interact with the web page. And as you can see, as you hover over different elements, on the right hand side, the appropriate DOM elements will be brought into view. So I'm going to go for this main element, which seems to contain the search results. So I'll select that, and that takes us to this mat grid list. If I expand this element, we can go further down into each sub element and work out how these are structured within the DOM, which is the document object model. So for me, I just want to make sure that we've got at least one result. So what I'm going to do, this div with a class of ribbon, I know that is contained within this mat card. So I don't need to go as far as this div element. So I'm going up, we've got a mat card which seems to contain quite a lot. And we've also got a mat grid tile. After that, we're back into the main container. So I'm going to use this mat grid tile. You've got a row span 1, col span 1. I'm not too sure what that is, but I'm not thinking that's a good value to use. So I'm going to look for, we've got a mat grid tile content. That, I think that should be okay. And that's the class. I don't think it'll matter which one we use. To be sure, I'm going to change this and perform a search for something that brings back 2 results. So just hover over. So we've got a mat card again. We've got a mat grid tile. We've got a mat grid tile content here. And we've got a mat grid tile class there. So I think we could use any of those. So what I'm doing is I'm double clicking. I'm going to right click and then copy. And then within the web inspector, you can do Command F or Control F to do a find. I'm looking for a class. Class values are denoted with a full stop at the start, and I'm just going to paste in that value. So you can see it's found 1 of 3, and this find will also look for things in the style elements. So that's not too much of an issue if it finds one more than what you expect. So I'll just go down to the second occurrence, and it's taken us here. And on the left hand side, you can see it's highlighted that first search result. And if I do the same, it's taken us to the second. So I'm confident that by using this class, we could assert that 1 or 2 return results. As well as class, we could also look at using the element type. So I'm going to double click the element type, do a copy, and then remove what we have here in the find and paste this in. Now you can see it's increased, and again some of these results are within this style block, so we're not interested in that. Go back to our second instance, and you can see that's taken us to the first search result. Do the search, go to the second, or the third, sorry, and we're still within that first element. Do it again, and we've gone to the second search result, and within there we've got this mat class. So what we'll do, we'll use that's found based on class. Yeah, so it's done a partial match. Okay, I got a little bit confused there. So I'll double click this element type, I'll copy that, we'll go back to our test. I'm going to paste that in, and we're going to do a get. So I'll save that. We're searching for bike, and you can see here we've got one result, and I know it's one because if there's more than one it will indicate it here. To demonstrate that, I'll change this instance of bike to be apple. I'll save that, and I've gone back to the test. You see now we're looking at this map grid tile, and it's found two results. So what we could do then is assert that it returns one element. So to do that, we've got the dot should, and then we're going to expand that and say have, and then you can see we've got these options here for length. So have dot length and then greater than. So I'll select greater than. I'm going to say greater than 0. So I'll save that. And you can see that test has now passed. I can duplicate this, and rather than have greater than, we could say less than. So we've got the less than here. I'm going to say it should have something less than 3. So I'll save that. And again, you can see the test is passing. If I change apple to be bike, and I'll save that, you see the test is still passing. Something that makes me nervous when writing automated tests is tests that just seem to pass, because I feel like I'm not testing the right thing or I'm not doing it in the right way. So by searching for bike, we have one result. So I'm going to say we should have a length greater than 1. I'll save that. And now you can see the test has failed because we're expecting a length above 1, but we got 1. If I change bike to be apple and save that, you can see now the test is passing. But I'm going to change this less than to 4. Sorry, that's me being dim. We want something less than 1. And now you can see we're expecting 1 or less than 1, and it's found 2. So these are using the element types. These are using IDs. And now I'll show you an example of using a class. So change this back to 2. Mess something up. There we go. Have a length below 2, but got 2. Change this to be at least 2. So now you can see that's passing. And now we'll do a search based on class. So we've got our 2 records. Our last assertion was using the element type, and now we're going to use class. So I've copied this whole class value, I'll go back to the find, put in a decimal because we're using a class, and then paste the value in. You can see we've got 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 out of 3. So I'm confident that this element is picking up the right thing and this class is picking up the right thing. So I'll copy this, go over to IntelliJ, paste that in. Oops, there we go. There we go. Finally found the keys. So we're doing a get based off of class. I'm going to say should have length greater than 1 and paste that. We'll go back to our test and you can see that's passing as well. What we could do is then look for a combination of things. So we've got an ID that's just outside of the search results. Do we have anything in here with an ID? I don't think we do. No. Okay, so what we can do is we can say that inside of this mat grid list we want everything that has this class. So all I'm doing is I'm pasting that value in and then put a space between there, and we're saying that anything that is inside of this element tag and has a class that contains this whole value. So I'll copy that, I'll paste it in here, and then we'll do a get request. I'll save that, go back to our test, and you can see here, based off of the element type and the class, we have 2 results still. What we can also do is use the web console to give us a path. So if we want to select, let's have a look, see what we've got. I'll clear this, search for something that doesn't exist, right click here and then inspect. So we've got here class, no result, or we could use the alt text if we wanted to. But what I'm going to do is right click on this mat card, copy and then selector. Once it's done that, I'm going to go to this find input field and paste in what it's given us. I'll copy this and I'll paste it in here. I'll wrap this around the get command and save. I'll go back to our application and you can see that this has failed. So it's failed because that element does not exist when we found something that does exist in the search results. So I'll copy that. We'll search for something that doesn't exist. We've left our assertion in. This has failed because there's nothing existing with this element type. So when we do a search for here, we are looking for mat grid tile. If that doesn't bring back any valid search results, mat grid tile doesn't exist in here. So I'll just comment this out for now. I suspect that that won't exist as well. Okay, so now you can see that we are having a valid test and it's passing. But this is quite long. And what's this doing is it's going through all of the element types within this page until it gets to what we're actually interested in. Now what you could do is you could copy all of this value, and within here I do have it still, but what you could do is just begin to delete certain elements within this path. And you can see it's still saying found 1 of 1. So you can keep doing this until you get to a short path or locator. See? So we're all the way down to matte card, and that's picked up quite a few instances. So if I go back, let's just copy this bit from the search results, because that's the bit we're interested in. So that's found 1. So we're in here. We just need to keep going up the DOM elements, and you can see that takes us to here. So we're in the search results panel still, but we don't need to specify these 2 div elements. So what you can do is you could get rid of these and just say you're interested in a matte card within the search results type. So that's the parent element, and within there you see this faint line that details everything that's within this containing element or this parent element, and within there you can see we have the matte card. So we could do that. So I'll copy this and I'll paste it in here. I'll save that. I'll change this to be Apple. Should pass. Okay, so you can see here Cypress is just having a bit of a hissy fit and the rendering is all over the place. So I'll just close that, go back to Cypress, close the test runner, open it back up, and we should have a passing test. And there we are, we have 2 matching elements. So hopefully this video has been of use. I think this will pass. Nope. Change that to blank. Length above 1. Is that this one? Matte grid, have length greater than 1. Okay. So greater than 1 is not inclusive, so least is. So I'll change that to be 0. Save that. At least 2, we've got 1. At least 1. And then this last one, have length greater than 0. And there we are, a passing test. I hope this video has been of use. We've gone over how to interact with elements based on ID, elements based on the element type. We've used class values, and we've used a combination of element types with class values. And again here, we've used element type with another element type. So you can combine these search locators to find what you need. I'll go into some more detail when I create a second test with some more assertions. But if this has been useful, please let me know, drop a comment if you want me to go over something again. Hopefully this audio has been a little bit better. It might have picked up the toys digging, so I'll apologise for that and any other background noises, and I'll see what I can improve on. Thank you very much.